this, all right.
Do you know when the mic?
I'll probably just talk out. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? Yeah, okay. At Brink House, we're a multidisciplinary design firm. We do everything from interiors to architecture and branding, and then all the things that connect the two. So we got a variety of skill sets within the office that kind of help our clients see through problems. So in the context of innovation, I wanted to start with a story. It's about the bicycle. And at the time when the bicycle was invented, it's very different than today, where it's very common and everybody thinks it's just a background in the world. But in the 1800s, when people wore really nice fancy hats, the bike was a pretty terrifying idea. It was a threat to a lot of people's livelihood. Hat makers were a pretty big deal back then. And even so much so, the Union of Hat Makers of North America did their very best to put a stop to the enthusiasm of the bicycle. They tried very hard with picketing. They got out in front of bike enthusiasts and they used to yell, "Get a horse." So they really tried their best to slow down the progress of the bicycle. So it's a very familiar story that we see. I gotta look at the slide, make sure I got it, okay. It's a very familiar story of innovation and creativity that we all know. It is getting a lot faster today, and it's very hard to keep up with all of the changes. So I wanted to structure this conversation about the what if that unknown was an opportunity? What if that unknown of the world wasn't a place of terror and anxiety? We're all going to lose our jobs. We're going to be sitting around getting money in the mail because there's a general salary because nobody can work, right? But maybe there's another way around it. Maybe there's another way out of these problems. Maybe it's not so much the pick the bike or support the livelihood of those that are losing their jobs. Maybe we can move forward as a community. So for our office, we believe that design makes everything better. It's everything in the world that we are in is designed. Everything in this room, if you think about the lights, the sprinkler heads, the amount of time that went into developing that technology and looking out the windows, the trees that were kept, the location of the sidewalks, the curbs, the roads, everything. You live in a completely designed world that has been the construction of creative thinking. So if we can design things that are moving the needle in a positive direction, I think design can change the world. I think design is the answer for a lot of the problems that we see in the future. I didn't know actually who would be fundamentally the audience here. Can I get a kind of a raise of hands, if you don't mind, to tell me who is a designer? You guys might be into the most boring lecture you've ever heard, because I'm going to talk about design. You guys might know it all. Who is like a business owner, never designed anything in their lives? Okay. So I'm going to go in the other room for a while. So maybe you guys might find something fun out of this, hopefully with a few stories that I have to share. I believed, and we talk a lot about the sort of designer's mindset in our office, what it is to live a life of creative thinking, which we all know, and I didn't know you guys would be, but you all know, and we all know, that can honestly be a life of terror at times. What's going to happen? When I listen to the story about the panther going up on the wall, like it's a beautiful story, and I think of it all the time when I would walk into the office and I would be filled with terror, not knowing what the heck I'm going to do to get out of the jam that I found myself in. But if we do these things, and I will walk us through some of these things using some of the examples that we do in the office and a few examples that were not things that we've done in the office to kind of illustrate our way of thinking. Seeking collaboration and to broaden your perspective, we really have constructed carefully an office that has a variety of disciplines. We believe strongly that if you go to school, You learn how to be a graphic designer. Oftentimes, if you're a computer scientist, you will look at the world with the lens of that discipline. There's nothing wrong with that. You've just been trained. Has anybody been, like if you want to own a restaurant, if you go to a restaurant with somebody that it's not their restaurant, but they own a restaurant, it's a dreadful experience because they just pick out everything in, you know what I mean? They pick out everything in there that you wouldn't necessarily find annoying, but they kind of ruin the spell for you because that's the only thing that they see. So what we do when we meet with our clients is we put the problem in the middle of the table and we surround the table with graphic designers, interior designers, architects, branders, which includes graphic designers, storytellers, and together we try to solve the problem. All of the different perspectives free us from holding on to one particular discipline. You give somebody a hammer, everything they see is a nail. If you group people together, they can find a solution that is not necessarily obvious. So when we do a design of a building, we put it in front of a graphic designer, all of a sudden the balconies are red, for example. This is a very light, easy example, but just to give you an idea of the surprises that can come out of working with different people from different disciplines. So this is a story of a tennis court right near my neighborhood. And it's about finding the truth of something and just really challenging your preconceptions. This was my favorite place in this park. The park was scheduled to be completely redesigned. And they had public consultations, they did all the right things, and they were asking the questions during the public consultations, what we should keep, what we should not keep. I don't know if this is exactly the truth, but what I didn't find out about the public consultations until much later, but that most were during the day or at dinner time. And the unfortunate thing is that during those times, that's when kids are either going to bed, eating dinner, or at school. And they held the key to the most amazing thing about this park. That dirty old tennis court was the hub for these kids. When they would walk down the street every day after school, when it was sunny, they don't want to play in the rain, they would walk either with a hockey net over their shoulder or a hockey stick, or they would go with a scooter. And it was like a bagpiper walking down the street, corralling all the kids in the neighborhood. So by the time they got to this tennis court, it was full of kids playing hockey or scooter or doing something really, really fun that was outside of their house. So the park is without a doubt a beautiful thing. But from our point of view, they were asking great questions to solve the wrong problem. And that's not for all aspects, but in particular that tennis court, because the tennis court now being gone, the kids are playing in front of their houses throughout the streets, and they're not together anymore. So it's actually changed a significant part of the fabric of our little community. Constraints are liberating. We have never had a client that came in and said, we have all the money in the world, got all the time. You do whatever you want to do because I'm sure it'll be great. It's always not enough time, not enough money. We don't have the skills in the office, whatever. But that can be the greatest thing. When you don't have any constraints, you never really have the opportunity to gauge yourself if you're in the right direction or not, right? So it's a little different, I would say, than doing a mural because it's purely in your world and you're the one that can say if it's right or wrong, right? So we don't have that liberty in our space. We're working a lot with clients that have a very specific goal in mind, so we have to make sure that we can meet their expectations. Better yet, we go way beyond their expectations. So in this particular case, we were asked to do something called Dine by Design. It was this built space that is connected to food. And it's a 10 by 10 booth, and that's the only thing that they asked of us. And they've been asking us for a while to do something, so we finally decided to do it. And Peter, my business partner, we've just been very consumed at this time about construction waste and how we can limit waste and build smart and food safety. So we said, okay, let's just say that this project is going to absolutely have zero waste. We're going to build something that is not going to leave a hair glue, or a bit of glue, or a piece of sawdust behind. And because I'm a Dutchman, don't know if anybody knows what Dutchmen are like, but they do not like to spend a ton of money. So I said, it's going to be free. I don't want to spend a penny. So this is what we ended up doing. This is the player skip. That is related to built design that we do. You don't have the preconceived goal on the end where you say, I know what I want this to look like, so I'm going to channel and stuff every possible solution down this channel so I get this thing that I want in the end. The parameters where they sound really difficult become the aesthetic. They become the final outcome, which can be a very liberating thing, and you usually find surprises on the other end. A client came to us with a brand called Wrought Iron, and they really got excited about this brand, and they asked us to do an interior environment for the pub, for the brew pub. And after getting to know them, there were 3 amazing guys. They don't take anything in life serious in the best possible way, except for beer. And they really wanted to create a space that they told us that was, quote unquote, a home for misfits, a place that was completely inclusive. So we said to them, about a week before they launched their product at a beer festival, where they had all their swag done, they had all of their bottles printed, they had t-shirts, like they'd spent a lot of money, business cards, the whole works, and it all said Wrought Iron Brewery. So a week before, we told them, there's something about it that doesn't feel inclusive, we have an environment, and then we pitched to them that they could change their entire brand, their name, their look and feel, how they communicate to it, and this was the beginning of how the whole space evolved afterwards, and we were just in a mad scramble. So point being that it is never too late to start over, to throw it all out, paint the mural wall white or black, and start all over again. There's something liberating about knowing that, and sometimes we're lucky enough to have clients that support us with that. The process of designing something, as we know, can be a bit frightening and scary, but worst of all is when you've got a client looking over your shoulder, wondering when you've got the answer that's going to solve all their problems. We were working on a big retail or restaurant chain. We were working on a big restaurant chain called Kelsey's in Ontario. And we kept on asking them questions. We didn't want to have any preconceived ideas, who the customers were, what they thought about it, what the problems were, and meeting after meeting, just trying to discover with them what this place is all about. And the CEO, who's a lovely guy, we're good friends now, but said, shut the fuck up and design this fucking store. Shut the fuck up was actually not in there, just shut up. Like, it was aggressive. And we talked them through it, and we said, listen, this is a part of the process. You have to give us space to learn, to fail, to try over again, and then fail and try over again, and keep doing that over and over and over again. So we came up with a very simple diagram that we shared with him, and we share with all of our clients now, and we say, we want to take you through this process. I promise you at the end, you'll have something that is perfect for you. But in the beginning, this diagnostic and brand discovery, you will not see a single thing that will resemble the solution. It's just all questions. Maybe we'll find some kind of language that works for you. And then we get into the creative brief. Anybody knows what a creative brief is? It's a general summary that provides a description and a direction for a project. So depending on the project that we're doing, that could be any variety of things, but it really is not designing anything physical. But by telling our clients that, you're not going to see anything for 3 months, that gives them the padding that they know that they're on a bit of a journey, that they do not need to ask us, can you design it? Can you stop doing what you're doing and just design the store, because I'm really uncomfortable and anxious. If you don't do this quickly, people will lose their jobs, whichever. So it's good for them, and it's good for any designer to tell people, this is when you might see something. Until then, just don't bother me with it, because I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now, right? And the process in that Kelsey's restaurant, for example, has strong results, and he bought into it. The company was successful afterward, the restaurant, and it's been rolling out across the country. Pinterest. One thing about, I guess, the designer's mindset, I think, is don't be cool. Bruce Mao was somebody who said that, and it's something that I've just kind of loved and followed him ever since. And ironically, I guess saying don't be cool is kind of the coolest thing you can say. But I think the piece outside of that is to try to be vulnerable with your clients. With our clients, we really try to put ourselves out there, our hearts on our sleeves all the time. So when we were working on a project, this is for a restaurant called Bar Sophia in Halifax. And in that very early stage of design, we didn't want to show them any photos, any images, anything like this is what this could look like and this is what that could look like, because we had no idea. We just had this sort of desire to create a feeling in something. So we ended up creating this sort of story, and it was in the time of COVID, and everybody was on a Zoom call, and there were like 15 people on Zoom, and half of them had masks on, you couldn't see their faces. The other half just had their monitor off, so it was just their initials. Everybody was muted, and we said we just had to go for it. We had no idea. We couldn't read if the room was interested or anything. So, but we said, what would be better if we had this in somebody speak it in Spanish? That would be even better. But nobody had a Spanish, or nobody could speak Spanish, or let alone have a Spanish accent. So we thought Siri might be able to do it. So when we presented this, we said, this is going to be the best restaurant that you've ever been to. I swear it's going to be great. We imagined chain link fence that's painted, and at least I got a little bit of a chuckle from you guys. When you talk about something like this to people and there's zero response, you just kind of got to go for it. Like, you just can't stop and say, like halfway through the joke, say, okay, I'm not going to say this anymore, and back away. So being vulnerable, so getting away from that Pinterest of showing the final image before you start the process, having a story, having a narrative, and sharing that with a client in a way that sometimes feels like you're jumping off a ledge is a good thing. Because what they saw with us is that these guys are completely crazy. Maybe these guys they don't get it at all. I think they've done a few things like this in the past, and maybe they're okay, but they understood that we wanted to take them on a process. They understood that we wanted to take them on a journey, and it wasn't just going to be a bunch of look and feel Pinterest images. So the last thing here, I can't remember, somebody had mentioned or asked a question about how do you know where to go and how do you know what to do in business and so on. I believe strongly that you have to always remember to move forward. Anybody ever see, I'm sure somebody, I'll say that everybody should watch Stutz, which is a movie about a psychologist. It's available on Netflix. And he talks about not being or not feeling helpless in the unknown, but just moving forward. You don't have always the exact answer that you want. You don't know that what you've uncovered is going to be the thing in the end. But if you don't get started, you're going to leave yourself behind, and the client or the people that you might be working with. As an employer, I can't tell you how many people, unfortunately, unbelievably talented, that have never finished their thesis, that have been overly late, that their thesis is no longer applicable. And that's because they are stuck within that fear of what is this going to look like? But you just you gotta go. And Elon Musk said something that I think about often, which is, it's better to be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. So if you have a solution that feels okay, just get started. It will evolve into something better. And when it comes to the bike, if they thought about it a little differently, the opportunity was to design a helmet. So the Hatters had a world of opportunity in front of them. This guy is actually the image of who is wearing one of the first helmets from, and he's from Halifax, or was from Halifax in 1910. Today, the bike helmet industry is over $1 billion. So there's always an opportunity and a way out. Thank you.